Hello. This is the first book I read on complexity in the spring of 1993. It's called Complexity, the Emerging Science at the Edge of Order and Chaos. I was flabbergasted. Since then, it has nestled in my brain. The first question I asked myself was, how can I translate these ideas into practice? In this episode, we focus on the third manifestation of complexity. And then you notice that practice is often very close. This is our garden. It's October, so many colors have disappeared. We know a large nature reserve can organize itself. A garden, however, must be maintained. If you do too little, it will be a mess. When you do too much and you try to enforce a strict order, you will fight a hopeless battle. The art is to walk a path between too little on the one hand and too much on the other. A year after reading the first book on complexity in 1994, I was invited in Japan to give a keynote presentation on rainwater. The conference was strictly organized on the one hand and left plenty room of socializing and fun on the other. The food was really fantastic. There I learned that in Eastern philosophy there's a concept that describes the middle path between too much and too little perfectly. It consists of two characters. They are introduced by the Chinese philosopher Confucius in the 5th century before Christ. In Japanese it sounds something like Chu Yo, and in Chinese something like Chung Yung. This middle path between too much and too little is also the middle path between order and chaos. And that is what I try to illustrate in the next example. This may be the only time I'll show a formula in this series about complexity. This formula represents the development of a population, P, as interactive, constructive and destructive powers. For now, it's not about these powers, but about this enforcement factor alpha. Well, I have put this formula into a spreadsheet. And look what's happening. When the alpha factor is 1, the population will fade away. It's not viable. When I change that into 2.9, then you see there's in the beginning some dynamics, but then the population will be stable. When I change that in 3, my computer is not very fast, then it will be more or less stable. It will go up and down a little. When I change that in 3.5, then you see even more dynamics, but it's going up and down, and there are 4 different states. When I change that, and that's the final one, in 3.9, then suddenly it's completely chaotic. You will see no order anymore. So, there is an area somewhere where order turns into chaos. The great discovery is that complex processes are working towards that area where order and chaos meet. This area is what we call complexity. This area is often referred to as the edge of chaos. This text comes out of my book, published in 2018. At the edge of chaos, complex systems find favorable conditions for survival. There is just enough order in this zone to prevent decay. Likewise, there's not so much order that the system could stagnate and freeze and stop adapting. exactly on the threshold and nowhere else, where too much and too little order balance each other, complex systems adapt, learn, change and innovate. As a result, the threshold keeps shifting a little. The shifting, that's life. So, the conclusion is, if you love life, you have to look for complexity. This was the 5th episode of the series. In the next episode, I will talk about the 4th manifestation of complexity, the adaptive capacity. I hope to see you again. Till then.